Good evening and welcome everybody. This is Mayuri and I am the division's PR manager for District 98 Division N for the term 2021-2022. And we are kickstarting season 2 of Members Unplugged. Unplugged with an N because we are Division N. And it is my sheer delight, joy, pleasure to, as I said, kickstart this particular season, season 2, episode 1, with a very dear friend, of course, a Toastmaster, but then we will not talk about Toastmasters here. We have Toastmaster Monica Dixit, who is currently serving as the president of Nagpur Toastmasters Club, but she dons too many hats, not just 2 or 3. She is an author, and her book, A Quest for Spring, has been selling on Amazon.com. We'll talk about that in a little while. She writes quotes, and I am in awe of those quotes that she puts up on social media. She is a crazy cricket fan. Talk to her about it, and she just doesn't stop. And she's a movie buff. You talk to her about the movies and Gulzar Sahab, and then she'll go, ah. But more than all of this, today, currently these days, Monica is also a practicing life coach and a counselor, something that she believes in very deeply and is practicing as a profession. And all of this, besides, she's also a practicing lawyer, which means she holds a degree in law, has been practicing in the past. So we'll get to know all about this that Monica does straight from Monica. Hi, Monica. Welcome to Members Unplugged. How are you?
Mayuri, thanks so much for having me on Members Unplugged.
And I know when I asked you for a profile and I was wondering, this is going to take me a good 2-3 minutes. All right, wonderful. So where do we begin? Let me ask you, where did you start? Where were you born, brought up, and how did you come into writing? You know, that's your main forte, let's say, as of now, but let's hear it from you.
I was born in Raipur, and being an only child, I was pampered but never spoiled. My parents were pretty strict with me, and I got into reading also pretty early. Maybe I was 5 or 6, because my parents are voracious readers and they love music and literature. So I would wake up to sometimes Madhushala playing, Madhushala by Sri Harivansh Rai Bachchan. And I would go to sleep listening to Pyasa songs because my father would play the tape. And those days we slept pretty early, like 8:30 was the bedtime back in early 80s. So I just grew up among books. My mother is a librarian and a teacher. So she used to have school on Saturdays while I had an off. So I would accompany her to her school and sit in the library. And that's where I started reading the adaptations of Shakespeare.
Yes.
Yeah. By the time I was 9.5 or so, I had read 4 or 5 adaptations of small books.
Wow. Yes, I know. Yes, not the original language, but then adaptations. But at least you got a taste of Shakespeare as early as 9 and 10. Wow.
Yes.
So you've always been surrounded by books.
Absolutely.
So when did and how did A Quest for Spring come into the picture?
I would write since my early childhood days, but it was just some poem or a diary. There were phases. Then I would sometimes, if I liked the movie, I would just write something about it. And it so happened that in 2014, when WhatsApp came up,
yes,
we made this college group and we all got talking and we started discussing that, you know, these two were going around, are they married or did they walk to the altar? And sadly, none of them made it to the altar. And that set me thinking that could there be a love story or a love strong enough to overcome all hurdles, social, economical, ideological. And that's how the characters started taking shape in my mind. And as I drove to work that very day, the RJ was playing the theme Bichre Pyar Ki Wapsi, and Mr. Bachchan was saying Main ho meri tanhai, and then Lataji's voice boomed. Hame milna hi tha, humdam kisi raah bhi nikalte. So that was my cue that I had to write about a love story or a story where they just, overcome all hurdles, including ideological. And I always wanted to write something about Kashmir because it was very close to my heart. I
But you
think
never,
all of us.
Yeah, you were born in Raipur and you've studied also in Bombay at Mirabai College, but
Yes.
never lived in Kashmir. Have you visited Kashmir?
No, I have had lots of Kashmiri friends while I was studying law, and I did a lot of research, whatever material I could find. In 2014, 2013, there were only two books. One was Our Moon Has Blood Clots by Rahul Pandita, and the other was A Curfewed Night by Basharat Peer. So it has both the perspectives. So that's where I did my research from.
And
otherwise, I haven't been to Kashmir.
But
Not
through your
as
book,
of
and I
now.
must tell the readers, when I started reading her book, A Quest for Spring, I did not put it down till I was through. And there's such a vivid description of Kashmir that even those who've not been there, you can sort of visualize all the valley and all its beauty over there. So when was the release, Monica, if I may ask, of your book, A Quest for Spring?
So initially, Quest for Spring was a short story of 18 pages, and one of my very close friends read it, and he didn't quite like it, but he said, there's something about it. You have a novel on your hands. So sometimes I think you need that little push or that little seed for someone to sow. And that's how the tree bloomed. Quest for Spring got published in 2017. I self-published it because at that time, all the publishers were busy publishing the celebrities, and I didn't know how to go about it. So I thought before the book goes stale, let's just publish it and see how it works.
Right. And so this, how much time would you say you had to put in? Of course, we cannot measure the hours, the sleepless nights behind the making of a book. But nonetheless, if I ask you, especially for our viewers, because those who have these ideas in their head want to concretize them into books, how much time would it take to write a book?
Since I was working at the time and I was a hands-on mom as well, it took me 3 years.
Wow, you need to have patience to persevere. Patience, passion, and perseverance, right? And you had all three. Wow. And so Monica, what next? What's your second novel? If we can just have a peep into it. I'm not asking you to divulge too much details, but nonetheless.
Second novel is also going to be a love story, romance fiction. And it will be set in two timelines, one in 1960s and other in 2005. So,
wow.
And
they're going to be just 30 years, 40 years, more than 40 years apart.
Yes.
Oh, wow. So there's going to be a lot of nostalgia in that. I'm sure you're going to put in a lot. And again, you would need a fair bit of research as well, right? Because you weren't born in the 60s, but then yet if you want to write in those periods, then of course there is research on the internet today. You have a lot of data. How do you go about finding your research? I know for Kashmir, you had just 2 books and the internet and a few friends you mentioned. So how do you go about this research thing? And to find the authenticity of this data that you keep collecting?
I refer to books, and then I have my reference points as my parents who have lived that era.
Of course.
And the book also draws instances from my grandparents' lives. Borrows instances from their love story. So they were my reference points all through.
Right. And so that brings me also to your second passion, cricket. Something that I cannot share with you at all. I know I can read books with you, but I'm just not a cricket fan. So tell me, how did this begin? When did the bug bite you?
It runs in the DNA. It comes to me from my grandparents. Both my Nana and Nani were cricket persons. So are my parents.
That runs in the DNA of the entire population, I'll say. Yeah. But then where were you in 1983, Monica, when we lifted the cup?
I was my father was working with State Bank of India then, and we were posted in Bela. It's in Chhattisgarh, the steel city.
Right.
So we didn't have a TV then, and I very vividly remember that we went to one of my father's friend who had a TV, and it was a black and white one. And after the Indian innings, it was pretty late in the night, I think, and we just came back. And then my parents were listening to the radio, and then I was told that we won. So,
but imagine a time when there was black and white TV. Would this young generation even know about it? You don't know. So in your novel of the 60s, you're going to be bringing out quite a lot of stuff, I'm sure. Okay.
I even remember when Rakesh Sharma went to the moon and that famous interview with Mrs. Gandhi. So my neighbor, she took me to her friend's place to watch that on TV. Again, a black and white television where you had to get up and change the channel that the tour. There used to be a knob which you had to turn to get it. So, and I very vividly remember his reply, "Sare jahan se acha." And whenever I watch that clip on YouTube or Facebook, I'm so thrilled that I was there. I watched it live.
It's really an amazing feeling, and this young generation would probably, they'll have theirs, of course, they will have their moments as well. So I have a niece who looks at the cassettes that we used to have. She turns them around in her hand, left and right, and says, "What's this?" And then came a long story. So that's for another time. We'll talk about it another time. Monica, tell me one thing. I know, because of course, we are friends also on all social media. You do share a lot about Sher and Shairi and quotes and Gulzar Sahab and all the awesomeness that comes along with. So where did this, of course you're a writer, so this is probably in you again, but then writing and understanding all of this, do you take courses in Urdu or understanding Sher or Shairi?
Take any course. Here my teacher again was my father. He is a huge fan of Sahir. And I remember as a child, he had lots of books and the name used to be Sahir. And I would wonder who this person is.
Mm-hmm.
And one day while listening to Vivid Bharti, they announced that, Geetkar Sahir Ludhianvi. And then it clicked, okay, this is the same person whose books my father reads. So that's how I imbibed my love for Urdu Shairi from my father. He's gifted because he picks up all the languages and he speaks them so fluently. He speaks Bengali, he speaks Urdu, Marathi is our mother tongue, so he speaks Marathi very well too. English, of course, but he is very quick with picking languages and he expresses himself very well in those as well. Pardon?
Yeah, how many languages do you speak then?
I just speak Hindi and Marathi, English, and a little bit of Urdu, but I'm not as eloquent as him.
So, do you, to express yourself, because you come from a very artistic background, so when you express yourself, it comes best and very authentic to you in which language?
English and at times Urdu.
Ah, so it's not Marathi, although it is your mother tongue, you say. And it's not even Hindi, which we speak all the time, but it's rather Urdu when it comes. So this expression and a very artistic expression, vocal expression of your sentiments, your feelings, whatever you're going through, it comes much more automatically, I'll say, in Urdu. Is that so?
English is more something I feel very comfortable expressing myself in. And it also so happened because my formative years I spent in Bhopal till I was 9 or so.
Uh-huh.
So I just picked up the Hindi language more than the Marathi, though it was a strict rule to speak in Marathi at home, otherwise we wouldn't learn our mother tongue.
Yeah.
But I'm more comfortable. My thought process is in English or Hindi or Urdu, but very rarely in Marathi.
All right. So before we go to the next one, because we're talking about books and because we've just touched about your book as well, is there something that you would like to share with would-be writers and would-be authors, very young in their early 20s, maybe 30s, or even not necessarily young? Anybody wants to write a book. From your own personal experience of having published your maiden novel and on to your second one now, what would you like to share with our viewers?
Very important thing that they must do after they have completed writing their book is to get the copyright done. Move the copyright process and the trademark and design. It's very important to safeguard your work. Because once you go to the publishers, no one can guarantee pilferages. In some of the clauses also they mention it that we will not take responsibility if there are any pilferages, and in the digital world it's very easy to lift your work off. So just make sure you have safeguarded it. It may cost a little money, but it's ultimately your blood, sweat, and tears. So just get some kind of insurance for it.
Yes, yes.
That's one thing. And second thing is obviously perseverance. If you believe in it, don't just give up on it. You will come across writing blocks or maybe some other difficulties, but just pursue. Whenever I had those phases of a writing block, I would nonetheless write anything, maybe 2 lines or 3 lines, but I made it a point to write every day. And that's how I got over it.
So every day for 3 years almost. But then you were also working as a lawyer, right? And then, of course, a full-time hands-on mom as well. And not to mention your passions, other passions. How did you juggle your time? What time did you write actually?
I would start at 11 or 11:30 after my daughter went off to sleep. And then I would write till 1:30 or 2 at the most. That was on working nights, and on weekdays, weeknights, like weekends, maybe 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. at times. And then I could just wake up around 9:30, and that was okay. 4.5 or 5 hours of sleep was all right on weekends.
So there is something about the night which is all quiet and silent and beautiful and serene. And I think it brings out the artistic instinct in most of us, right? So you also were at your best. Yeah, and I think more than anything else, less distractions also, right? Because during the day you're always called, etc. All right. So for the benefit of viewers, please go to Amazon.com and find out Monica Dixit. Her book, A Quest for Spring, is lying over there. Go get your copy soon. I have mine. All right. So the next part, the other half about Monica, which is really very, she's very she's very deeply involved in currently, is her counseling and being a life coach. Monica, would you like to share why did you fall into this, being a lawyer, of course, already, and an author already? What pushed you into coming into this as well now?
While I was practicing law, I would practice in the family court, and I would come across a lot of divorce cases. That was what we dealt in mainly. And what I found out while interviewing the clients was that, there were so many red flags in their relationships right from the beginning, but they never addressed it, probably never acknowledged it. This could have been avoided. Maybe their relationship could have been saved. So I thought, why not begin relationship counseling, which is not really looked into or looked at in India as of now. So because it may just, help someone minimize the conflicts. And even if there are conflicts which cannot be resolved, then maybe help them end things gracefully, at least an amicable separation if their living together was not amicable. And relationship is not only the married couples, but also people who are in a relationship or a parent-child relationship,
Absolutely.
every kind. So I just thought if I could just hear them out and help them, because most of the times they know the answers well,
Yes.
but they just need someone to hear, and they need that soundboard to reflect it back. So,
and so that also brings me to something that you and I will all, of course, agree, because we are Toastmasters, that even to open up, firstly, one has to open up to a counselor as well. But then you also need to have the very basic of communication skills. So, and opening up and being vulnerable and being yourself to a counselor is the essence of a good therapeutic session. How about you, Monica? How has your journey as a communicator been? Because you're an author, so you express in the written. But how about the verbal communication?
When I was out there to promote my book, I had this ceremony and I spoke for 1.5 hours, and it was a mess. I knew I was really bad, and I knew it was time to get back to my home club. I had been away for about 3 years due to my work exigencies. And I said, no, now if I've written a beautiful book, and if I have to tell people to read this, I should be able to talk about it. If I only can't tell you why you should read my book, why would anyone? So that's how I again got back to my home club, and I started working upon myself. I was always a backbencher, even at NTC, but somehow I would always say, okay, I'll take up any role that's given. And I was actually scared to go and give a speech. So I said, I'll take up any role. At the most, I will speak for 2 minutes or 3 minutes. And I was an awful evaluator because I could never qualify. I would never qualify in the table topics, which were impromptu.
Because you went beyond the time, is that so? You always were disqualified?
I could never complete talk for that 1 minute till the green card showed.
As less as that?
Yes, and now as an evaluator, I spoke only for 40 seconds once. So then I said, doesn't matter, I'll just go out there and talk till I see the green card. And it has helped me. Today I'm talking to you, which I wouldn't have been. And then cut to February 2020 when Nagpur held the first VLF with the Blit Fest. And I was given a time slot to promote my book. It was a 3-minute time slot before one of the most coveted sessions, that of Raksha Bhardiya. And when I reached the venue, the hall, there were only 15-20 people. I was like, okay, it's fine. And within minutes, there were crowds swarming the hall, and it swelled up to 150-200 people. And the organizers were continuously asking me, will you be able to finish it in 3 minutes? And I said, yes, I'm a Toastmaster. I'm trained. So I decided that I would show my book trailer of 1 minute and then I would speak for 2. But when I took the podium, and after 40 seconds, the organizer, one of the volunteers, just signaled that the video can't be played. So I just began my pitch, and I finished with just 10 or 15 seconds still remaining, and I had not missed out on any part of my speech, and I had adjusted that well. So, and the applause I received was tremendous. And even after I got out of the hall, there were people who said they were looking to read my book. Even the next day, they remembered me from my pitch. And the beautiful part of Toastmasters is that I had so many members from the Toastmasters community there in the hall clapping and cheering for me. I had not told them that I would be there. They were just there at the venue and they knew they had to come and be there. So it was so encouraging.
Yes. That's what we do at Toastmasters. Yes. Exemplary of a Toastmaster to be able to finish in 3 minutes flat. Wow, Monica. Wow.
And without losing my nerves or letting them know that I was nervous or something.
Were you?
No, I wasn't.
Wow. What a transformation then. I mean, from someone who could barely speak for 40 seconds in an impromptu speaking session, you went on to complete your pitch in less than 3 minutes. Wow. So that's what you...
I surprised myself also. I never thought I could pull this off.
Yes, but amazing. And you must be so proud that you're having come back to Toastmasters. And that's how Toastmasters helps you subtly, slowly, but surely. Builds the confidence in each one of us. Yes, absolutely. So fellow Toastmasters and guests who are viewing this, Monica has very graciously consented to allow me, or in fact, to share her phone number with you all. Should you be wishing to contact her for any kind of sessions, please note her number. Toastmaster Monica Dixit, 9822202463. And I repeat, 9822202463. You can also go ahead and find Monica on Facebook with the name Monica Majumdar Dixit. She's also there on Twitter. She tweets quite a bit. Again, by the same name, Monica Majumdar Dixit. Am I missing? And Instagram as well, of course. Not to miss Instagram, but the same name. Am I missing any other social media on which we can find you, Monica? No. All right. Yes, but then it has been just excellent, superb, and wonderful to have you at Members Unplugged. And I really look forward to this. I'm sure it's going to be a release in 2022. Yes, your second book.
Hopefully, yes. I'm looking out for a publisher soon once I begin the copyright process then.
All right. So I look forward to the second book by Monica Majumdar Dixit, and I'll come forward to, and I'll take an autographed copy. Definitely will be there to cheer you up. And this time I know you are going to do a flawless pitch. Even this time you were, but then yes, all the very best, Monica, from everyone at Division N. It was a pleasure to have you on our very first episode of season 2, Members Unplugged. This is Mayuri signing out. Take care.